everybody, it's Miss Rachel and we are here to draw some graffiti letters. So before we get started, I'm going to show you what materials you will need. And it's really simple. You just need some paper. I'm using some recycled paper, calendar from last year. And you can use a pencil to draw, which I suggest because there is some erasing. So I also have a separate eraser. But if you have a good eraser on your pencil, that will do. You'll also need a pencil sharpener just because it kind of takes a while to get the letters drawn out. And I know you'll need to sharpen your pencil as you go. And if you have a mechanical pencil, that's really great to use. I'm also... Well, I haven't decided yet, but I might use colored pencils to color it in, or crayons, or maybe even some markers, or mix them all up. I don't know. You might get crazy. So let me set up my camera so that you can see my paper and you can see what I'm doing. In the comments, there are some instructions. So if you want to go ahead and kind of jump in, you can do that, or you can stay with me live because I'm going to show you how to write or how to draw graffiti letters. Okay, so let's get this going. Okay, so here's my paper. Make sure we got that. And I hope you guys can see that, and let me know in the comments if it's like too dark or anything. Kind of seems dark, but so we're drawing graffiti letters, and I have a bit of an example from some classes that I had before. So this will be the end result. Your letters will not look exactly like mine because this is an art class, so you know, make it your own, but that's an example of what it will turn out like. So I am sick to death of drawing my own name, so I'm just gonna use, you can write it in the corner, but I'm gonna use this little sticky note, and I'm gonna do one for my niece Zoe, and we spell it like this. The reason I write out what I'm about to draw is because when you're doing art, sometimes you can get kind of, you know, wrapped up in it, and you might forget how to spell it. So write it out, have it close. I do know, or I do think everybody is smart enough to remember how to spell their own names, but the artsy part kind of takes you somewhere. You might get lost. So write out the name, and then we're going to rewrite it on our paper. If you're using your paper the long way, that's great because your name may fit better this way, but I'm going to do this for the live, okay? So I'm going to do Zoe, and I'm going to write my letters normally, just regular old letters that I learned how to write in kindergarten or whenever you learn how to write. I don't know if that's kind of late to learn how to write. Okay, so I have Zoe, and she has this special little character over her name called an umlaut, so I added that there. And you'll notice that I left space in between each of my letters because we're going to make these fat and really graffiti-esque. So I left those spaces so I have space to build my letters. In the comments, you'll see that the step says draw rectangles. You can draw rectangles, or you can draw any kind of shape. So I'm going to do a bunch of different kinds of shapes, or at least 3 different kinds of shapes, so you can see what these letters could be. They don't have to be blocky like my original example here. They don't have to be like that. They're going to be different, and that's okay. So we're just here to have fun, do something a little different while we're all stuck in the house. So I think for the first one, I'm going to do a bubble kind of letter. So I'm going to draw some ovals around each stroke of the letter. So I'm calling this line here a stroke, and I'm drawing an oval around it. And I'm not pressing down really hard or anything because we're going to have to come back and erase the inside letters, or the insides of this. So I'm just drawing a big old oval bubble around the letters. So I've got my Z done with all of the bubbles. Now I'm going to move on to my O. And I think for this one, I will do like triangle shapes or something. So I'm going to start here. Oop, I drew a little bit too hard, but that's okay. and I'm going to make these weird claw kind of shapes. And with the curvy letters, it can get a little weird because with the straight letters, we have clear lines where our shapes end and begin. With the circle, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. You just want to make sure that you cover the entire line of the letter with shapes so that you have something that you can erase to create a bigger, puffier version of that letter. And then I'm going to move over to my E, and I guess I'll do the rectangles. So, of course, this is a no-brainer, a straight rectangle there. But around this curve, I'm going to just draw a bunch of rectangles. Instead of trying to curve my rectangles, I'm just going to add a bunch of kind of straight blocks. And I think once I get done with this E, it won't look like an E. But that's okay, because it's art, and we can do what we want to do. And it's graffiti. So you don't always have to be able to read it, and that's fine. So I got my little squares up here for the umlaut. All right, so I have what I'm calling the meat on the bones, which was the letters that we drew. So I got my meat on here, and I am going to use this green marker to outline my letters. I'm not going to trace the inside of the letters. I'm just going to do the outline, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about because I have had some students have troubles with this. So only the lines on the outside will get marker. The rest of them will be erased. So they'll get the eraser. So I'm going to start here with the Z. Just come around. So I know my hand may be in the way, but hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to do the same thing with my O and then my E, then I'm going to come back and erase the inside lines. So I'm only tracing the lines on the very outside of this O. Only the lines on the very outside. Tracing it with my green marker. Now, because the O has an inner circle that makes it an O, I'm going to trace the lines only on the very edge of the inside. And I know that might sound kind of weird, but hopefully what you're seeing is clearing that up. So now I'm going over to my E, and again, I'm only tracing the outlines, the very outside edges, so that we can get something that maybe looks like an E. But if it doesn't look like an E, I'm not worried about that because it's art. And because this is my first time doing this. If it doesn't turn out perfectly on this first time, you can try it again. So there we have our letters. Now I'm going to take my eraser and erase the inside of all of the letters, and what that's going to do is kind of create like a coloring sheet of your name. So I bet you can guess what the next thing we're going to do is. That's right, we're going to color it in, and you can color it in however you want. There are no rules, especially not to this step. One thing that I like to do is use my crayons because they come with a bunch of colors, including my secondary and even tertiary colors. I like to call those my in-between colors. So you know you got your red and your orange and stuff like that, but with the crayons, you get red-orange and you get yellow-orange. You have all the colors in between that can help us kind of do like an ombre kind of gradient fade effect. So since I said orange, and I can find my red orange here and my regular orange, let's see if we can find a red. Oh, Miss Rachel does not have it together. Okay, here we go. We have a red. So I'm going to color this in so that it fades from red to orange. And I'm going to start with my red. I'm going to start at the bottom. And this is just something that I'm showing you as an idea. It is not the rule at all. You do not have to color your letters the same color as mine. You don't have to trace them with the marker. You could use pens, or what else could you use? The colored pencils if you have them. You could do the whole thing in crayon. So I've colored lightly with my red. And now I'm going to take this red orange, because it goes in between the orange and the red, and color lightly a little bit overlapping my red, but still going up this letter Z. So I've overlapped a little bit, and then I'm going to go up a little more and leave some space for my final color, which is the orange. Now I'm going to finish this by coloring the top of this orange, and I'm just using regular Crayola crayons. As you can see, I think they're very versatile, so I really like to use them, and they're easy to get. You don't have to be an artist to be able to find crayons, right? So now I'm going back over my letters, and I'm coloring on top of this orange here, so I get that kind of fade effect, that gradient that I want. I'm coloring over the red orange that I initially put down, and then I'm coloring a little bit over my red. And I'm just going to take my time to build these colors up. And by build them up, I mean I'm going to go back over them in layers so that I can make them really, really bold. So I would definitely suggest taking your time. We won't finish this project while I'm live, but you know, right now it kind of seems like we have nothing but time, so you can take some time now, draw out your letters. Maybe you have something else to do, like a class or something. Come back later and finish it up. I don't know, I'm getting this weird line on my drawing. Probably it might be from the other side of the paper. So, and you see as I'm building it up, the color is getting bolder, and I can really start to see my ombre effect, or my gradient, my little fade from orange to red. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm not going to color in letters because I think you can handle the rest of it. I will show you, I lied, I will show you one other thing. In the comments for the instructions for this, it says that you can do different patterns inside of your letters. So I think that's a really cool way to add a little texture to your drawings. So I'm just going to add like a stripe pattern to these letters. And what color am I using? I'm using blue-green right now. Just always a fan favorite. And this is not a pre-planned design idea. I'm just kind of coming up with it as I go. I like to color and doodle a lot, so it comes kind of easy to me. So when you start to do this and you get in your groove, you'll get ideas too, and just go with it, because that's the fun of doing art. You don't have to always plan everything out with projects like this. So we're just trying it out, just having some fun. Well, I hope you guys are having fun. I'm having fun. I was super excited to get to do this with my CAP staff. So I'm just taking some colors and adding a pattern. Instead of doing the fade here, I'm just adding a pattern into this letter. And we can do something even more quirky for that weird E with the umlaut. Okay? So, but one thing I do want to show you is one way that you can maybe kind of spice this up is to move the letters a little closer together. I know I said to move them apart so that you have space to build your letters, but if your letters were closer together and your shapes end up overlapping, sorry, I haven't talked in a while, then that will add like a really cool texture, and you'll get a big bold shape, which I think is always really cool when you are looking at graffiti. So if your letters are a little bit closer together and they get kind of hard to read, that's perfect. That's great. Don't feel like you've done anything wrong. That's great. Just keep going. So another thing I want to show you is adding an outline to your name. So I'm going to go all around just the outside of the shapes of the letters to add an outline, to add some like bold kind of contrast to my letters. And you can do this anyway. Right now it seems like I'm doing like a puffy kind of character. I'm going to change it up on this side and just draw kind of spiky. because you can do anything you want to do. Now I'm going to do a wavy line just because I feel like it. That's the only reason. And now I have this new space to color in. So you see how you can kind of build on this and make it become something really big and vibrant. And I always love to tell people, you are not done. So even if you colored this E in and then you've colored this space in, you still have all this white space. Let's not waste that precious white space. Let's activate that negative space with some patterns in the background. We can, one of my favorites is to do the brick wall on the background, because that's kind of our idea of what graffiti is. You usually see it on the sides of buildings and things like that, but that doesn't mean that's what you have to do. This can have, we can have some flowers here. This can be graffiti randomly floating in the air out in the field. So how about we draw that? Add that in there with my crayons. And then add some grass in here. And of course, I would encourage coloring all of this in, but I'm sure you can handle that on your own. And then maybe back here I'll add a little cloud, because my graffiti is floating in the air. I'm gonna add a little cloud. And if you're familiar with Bob Ross with the painting, just gonna add a little bird. Just add a little bird right in there. Let's make it a bird. Okay. This is my old school preschool way of drawing birds. So there you have it, drawing graffiti letters with Miss Rachel. I think the biggest thing that I can give you with this activity is that you have to practice if you want to become a master graffiti artist just like anybody else. And try different things. I tried the ovals here, and I did a weird funky arrowhead kind of thing there, and then I did rectangles here, but those aren't all the shapes. You can try a bunch of different shapes, and you should try different letters. It's fun to practice with your name, but if you get tired of that, move on to something else. Do your mom's name or your dad's name, or just a word that you like. I think it can be really fun to try different things with different colors and different materials and things like that. So if you do this project, I'm sure you won't finish before this video is over, but if you do this project, please come back and post a picture. We want to see what you're doing. We want to connect with you, and make sure you stay tuned, or not stay tuned, because we're not going to be live for a whole hour, but make sure you come back at 2 o'clock for Miss Van's demonstration on making hand sculptures with salt dough. I've gotten a preview. It looks like it's going to be really good. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.